matter how high up the tripod goes, it's never quite tall enough. I'm like 6 feet tall, so I need a taller tripod. No, this one's fine. This one's fine. Hello everybody. Cola Guy 29229, of course, won the last contest I did, the one that was right before Christmas. And he gets a prize video, of course. But he was also my 200 subscriber. He was number 200. So when that happened, I wrote him and said, you're my number 200. Would you like me to make a special video for you? So I owe him 2 videos now. This is the first of 2 videos I'm making for him. He wanted to know a little bit about my guilty pleasures, movies that I would consider to be guilty pleasures. Would be movies that I recognize to be of low quality, but I enjoy them anyway. I think the first one that I should mention would be Twister, which came out in '96. Not a great year for movies. The Rock came out that year. That was kind of a low point for me. I hate The Rock. And Twister's also not that great either, but it's fun. It's fun largely because I think of the energy of the movie and the enthusiasm of the cast. Not all of them are great, but there are a few good ones in there. Bill Paxton and Helen Hunt are the leads, and of course Philip Seymour Hoffman is one of the guys on their team. I'm not really sure what he's doing there. He just seems to be like hanging out most of the time and cracking jokes. He's one of their scientists, and Bill Paxton at one point says, "Oh yeah, he's been with us on our team since the beginning." I'm like, why? What does this guy do except hang out and sing along to Eric Clapton tunes? I don't know. But of course, I've been a long-time Helen Hunt fan. I've liked her ever since she was in Project X. And when this movie came out, I was like, oh, I thought it was a lot of fun. And, guys I know were like, that movie's really dumb. I'm like, oh, Helen Hunt's really good. I'm like, Helen Hunt's not that great. A year and a half later, she wins the Oscar for Best Actress for As Good as It Gets. And they're like, yeah, you're right, Helen Hunt's good. I'm like, see, told you. And the dialogue, actually, some of it's pretty dumb. But it was actually rewritten by Joss Whedon at one point, and I can identify at least one of his lines in that movie. Cary Elwes plays another scientist who's also studying tornadoes, and he sort of he's got a fancier get up. He's got all these sleek black vans, and he's got corporate sponsors, and they just don't like him at all. So at one point he's being interviewed on TV, and all the guys are watching, and Helen Hunt looks at him, smiling at the camera and bragging and everything like that. And she says, he really is in love with himself. I thought it was just a summer thing. And I'm like, years later when I found out Joss Whedon, did a pass at that script, I was just like, oh, that's got to be one of his lines. That was just really clever. But what's not so clever about it is the fact that half the time they're just running around trying to take shelter from the storm, and Bill Paxton is always yelling at them to take cover, get underground, to run, move, whatever. Every single variation on the line, "Let's get out of here," he says. Throughout the entire movie, twisters are coming and they're having to hide and protect themselves or whatever, and he's always yelling at people to take cover. So when the climax comes and it's just him and Helen Hunt driving the truck and getting ready to load the thing, they jump out of the truck and he immediately starts going, "Move, come on, let's go." I'm just like, oh great, here we go again, more of these lines. But it's a fun movie, very very cheesy movie, but fun. I watched it, like when it came out in video, I watched it like 4 times in a row, not like 4 times in one sitting, but when it was over at any given point, I would immediately restart it again and then quit after half an hour and pick it up again later. I don't know. It's just funny. So another movie that's sort of a classic guilty pleasure for me is a movie that came out in 1989 called Tango and Cash. It's a buddy cop movie. Now, normally when you have buddy cop movies from the 80s and 90s and what have you, there's a formula whereby you have one guy who's sort of kind of crazy. He's quick to shoot guys, he doesn't really follow the rules all that well. And the other guy is, of course, the stable one. Well, Tango and Cash has 2 loose cannons. So that makes it more of a comedy for me than most other action movies. Most action movies, they have a lot of humor in it, a lot of one-liners. But it's still basically an action movie, whereas this is definitely a comedy. In fact, it's almost a parody because there are times when they actually seem to be making fun of cop movies just because of how extreme the behavior is. It's not like the stunts are bigger or anything like that. Everything is just more, I don't know, devil may care. And the 2 leads are Stallone and Kurt Russell. I've always liked Stallone as an actor a bit better than Schwarzenegger. I just think he comes off a little more naturally. Schwarzenegger just has a problem with certain lines. I don't know, something like that. I mean, Stallone has speech problems as well, but it's not anything to do with his acting. He has, like, partial facial paralysis. Anyway, the two of them, Stallone and Kurt Russell, they're Tango and Cash, and one works on the north side of Los Angeles, the other works on the south side of Los Angeles, and they're both trying to take down Jack Palance, who's a drug dealer, big time, slick suit drug dealer, who's running a lot of operations in their city. And they're causing all kinds of problems for him. So he frames them for murder, and he has them put on trial. And the trial is a whole other crazy sequence. And then they get sent to prison. They get put in general population, and half the guys who were in there were put away by them initially. So they got to deal with them. They got to fight them off. And then they realize that they're going to get killed if they stay in prison. So then they have to break out of prison. They have to escape. And at the point where they decide, we have to break out of here and escape from prison, I'm just like, man, this movie is just too much. I'm just loving the heck out of this movie because it's going to every single extreme it can. Kurt Russell, always liked him. He's lots and lots of fun. And again, it's a movie that really, really benefits from having a really enthusiastic cast. There are a lot of fun lines in this movie, and the fight scenes, the shootouts are just pretty crazy, as is standard procedure for this type of thing. But yeah, you could just tell these guys are having a ball, because they're always ripping on each other, they're always putting each other down, and it's just a lot of fun. The director is Andrei Konchalovsky, who's a very well-respected Russian director who did an American film called Runaway Train, which is a very good, serious, thriller. Whereas this is just lots and lots of fun. It's just nuts. It's just crazy, and it doesn't take itself seriously for a minute, which just makes it that much more fun. Now, I'd have to say that out of all the lousy movies that I've seen that I've enjoyed, there is one which is absolutely tops them all. And this is a movie not a lot of people have heard of, I think, if they've seen it. Or if they've seen it, they probably haven't even heard of it. What am I saying? I don't know. Anyway, the movie is called Hollow Point, and it's directed by a guy named Sidney J. Furie, who is infamous for having directed the fourth Superman movie with Christopher Reeve, Superman 4: The Quest for Peace, which is just one of the most terrible movies ever. Not only is it just like lame, okay, all the effects are just like totally substandard, okay? They take an image, a still image of Christopher Reeve, and they magnify it. They blow it up bigger to make it look like he's flying towards the camera. It's the stupidest effect ever for a movie of that scale. It's supposed to be classy, Superman. Anyway, that's Superman. But he did this movie, Hollow Point, which just basically went direct to cable, direct to video, never went to the inside of a theater. And at the time, I had free HBO. So not only was I watching a lot of, mainstream movies, on cable, I was also watching these, what they would call HBO premieres, whereby this movie would never come out in the theater or anything like that. Eventually we go to video, but, so I was watching a lot of cheesy thrillers, a lot of over-the-top acting, movies that starred guys like Eric Roberts, and that kind of thing. And this movie had Thomas Ian Griffith and Tia Carrere as a couple of agents. She works for the FBI, he works for the DEA. They're both trying to take down a series of drug dealers in, I guess it's Los Angeles again. Los Angeles is a very popular place for drug dealers, I guess, and cops who are on the edge, and agents who don't follow the rules, that kind of thing. But the leader of the gangsters is played by John Lithgow. He's organizing everything, and his primary assassin, his sort of right-hand man, is played by Donald Sutherland. Of course, they're at odds with each other as well, because at one point Lithgow had tried to have Sutherland killed, and I love Donald Sutherland. He is so much fun in so many movies that I've seen. And in this one, he plays a really, really fun guy. He's just, got all kinds of tricks up his sleeve, and he's always giving the slip to the agents who are after him. And, of course, Thomas Ian Griffith, he's, the handsome guy. He has a lot of fun with this part. He just laughs his way throughout the entire thing and never takes anything seriously. And Tia Carrere, she's like a more by-the-book agent, but at the beginning of the movie, she's actually trying to get married to a gangster just to find out who his father is so she can arrest him. It's just crazy. This is the kind of movie where a federal agent will pull out her gun while she's driving down the street and shoot at another guy's car in a highly populated neighborhood. I mean, this car crashes, it could have hurt all kinds of people, They just don't care. This is the type of movie that it is. It's just crazy. And nobody takes anything seriously. But again, it's the actors, it's the four leads just make this movie, and they make it a lot of fun. It's a funny coincidence. I was talking about this with a friend of mine. And then I went home, and it was on cable that night, so I got to watch it, and man, I laughed my butt off, man. It is so funny. One of the best exchanges in the movie is Donald Sutherland, he's trying to get away from people who are chasing him, and he accidentally smashes right into a cop car. So the two of them are stuck together in the middle of the street, and the cop in the passenger side of the cop car rolls down his window and pulls out his nightstick and taps on Donald Sutherland's window. Donald Sutherland slowly kind of rolls his window down, doesn't want to talk to the guy, of course. Cop says to him, "Drinking?" Donald Sutherland says, "If you're buying." That's just classic. I love that. And it's a really fun movie. It's, not one that I would recommend for its quality. There's actually a moment where Tia Carrere, who was, of course, one of the villainesses in True Lies, and she was in Wayne's World, is firing her gun, and you can actually see her closing her eyes like that while she's shooting, which is something I don't think a trained federal agent should do. It's crazy. It's nuts. All kinds of stupid things happen in this movie. I mean, it's just totally implausible, but it's fun. And I have a ball when I watch it. There's a scene in which Thomasine Griffith, okay, I'm almost done here, but Thomasine Griffith actually gets on a window washer's rig and rappels straight down because he's pursuing a bad guy who is going down a staircase inside the building and is shooting through the windows. That would never work, okay? He would be picked off like that. There's no maneuverability on a window washer rig, for crying out loud. It's crazy. Anyway, I have lots of movies that I've seen just because they're silly or whatever. But those are kind of the three that kind of stand out. And of the three of them, I probably recommend Tango and Cash the most because it's the most sophisticated as far as its intent, I guess. I don't know. But Hollow Point is just crazy, and there's a lot of fun stuff in it. If you get the opportunity to see Hollow Point, you should at least watch like maybe, 10 or 15 minutes of it just because it's fun. Anyway, that's it for now. There's another video for Cola Guy, of course, coming up very soon. So thanks for watching. I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.